Hello class. In today's presentation I will be discussing very briefly the main key elements of whistleblowing and ethics. And let's start with definition. Of course, we are having a feeling what the whistleblowing is, but if we are going with the professional definition, it would be described as some kind of unauthorized disclosure of information by individuals about unethical, illegal, or corruption-related practices of an organization, and this would be done to protect public interest. This last part is actually quite important because whistleblowing is not an act of retaliation. It's not done for any other purposes, but rather to do a good for the bigger public. And the public not necessarily has to be everybody in the United States. It may be to protect the interest of a company by some wrongdoers within it. So it has many different types. It can be internal, meaning that lower level employee is reporting on some activities of others, which can harm the company itself. And actually, if we're thinking about the business ethic and business whistleblowing, this internal whistleblowing is preferred. Actually, many of the companies will have programs which help with reporting of any kind of illegal or unethical activities for the better good of the company. For example, IBM had a program, Open Door, which would actually all grievances or all complaints would be actually done and taken upon to the highest level of hierarchy, bypassing the lower levels. In this moment, there would be no fear of retaliation or not fear of I want to report on this particular party, but I don't know if I should do it to my superior because he also can be involved, and things like that. So they can be internal, they can be external, and also they can be handled by third party, especially in cases when a person who is informing wants to become wants to stay anonymous or wants to his name to be confidential. Sorry. The term of whistleblower was crafted but arrived later in 1970s, simply because the previous words as informant had a very bad connotations. They were thinking about actually somebody who is a snitch. This one was kind of made so it has more connotation as a whistleblower, as a referee, or somebody who just makes public aware of the fact rather than making a specific informant thing. So there's a question, of course, is it ethical? And kind of when we're thinking about the reporting, we are already feeling a little queasy and unsure. And a number of ethical theorists took upon thinking about how we can classify it, whistleblowing, how we'll take it apart, how we can think about all the act and think about it as justifiable or unjustifiable. Richard A. George in 1986 in Business Ethics described that there are a couple conditions which have to be fulfilled for the act to be whistleblowing to be morally permissible. And one of the first one was that the company through its products or its policy makes a serious harm to the public. The employee lets his superior know about the problem, and if the superior doesn't know, doesn't act on it, the employee would go farther and farther in hierarchy to report the problem. So those are permissible. However, he also said that it's very important for act to be actually not only permissible but also morally required. And in these cases, if the whistleblower had a serious evidence that will convince our objective observer that the situation poses a risk, and the whistleblower will believe that bringing the information to the light will make the changes, and also that the benefits of it will outweigh the risk, the person would be morally required actually to carry out the situation. Of course, the risks are. There is a number of risk when we are thinking about it. For the person, there would be a loss of employment, and there are studies which follow the number of whistleblowers, and many of them not only lost their jobs but also had difficulties in gaining employment in the industry. The person can be ostracized by his colleagues and of course superior. There also may be for the person more dilemma of loyalty, because everybody wants to be loyal to their company. They want to be very good toward the company. There is also a fear of false accusations. What happened if you accused somebody and actually they are not guilty, and this would be upon you. People who are whistleblowers face threats and could also get into legal trouble. So it's a lot of things to wait upon for sometimes no gain rather than public good. So many of the people may be reluctant acting upon it. Let me sorry about that. Let me get back. When we're thinking about the act itself, so we are having a person who is a whistleblower, and we're thinking about the act itself. It can be divided by different elements: the act of the disclosure, actor, the subject of the disclosure, a target, the person who is doing the wrongdoing, the disclosure recipient, and the outcome. Those elements will come a little handy when we are thinking about the differences between governmental whistleblowing and corporate whistleblowing, because sometimes these definitions get a little muddled in understanding. So I was talking about the act itself. However, the idea of when we are thinking about it as it morally required and morally, let me find. We're thinking about morally required and also the dangers this is posed. There is, of course, understanding that there should be some regulation and understanding that those people should be protected, since they're working for the public good, and they are having a number of issues they are facing to go with this information. UN Convention Against Corruption stated that every state party should consider incorporating in their own legal system a measure that would protect people from who are fighting for common good and who are in the good faith reporting activities that are concerning corruption. So, of course, this relates to the corporate whistleblowing, but also into the corruption which would get to between the companies and government, and let's say the corruption against the government. So there are a number. Actually, I just post several of the laws on federal laws on this chart. However, if you Google federal laws and whistleblowing, you will get a huge chart of different relating to federal laws, also state laws and different corporate laws, which work with the statement how to protect many of those people. And actually many of those acts works this way, that encourages the whistleblowers and sometimes offers them a gain sometimes monetary gain, like for example in the laws of corruption, some recovered money could be shared with the person who informed about the acts. There are a number of them which deal about corporate laws and corporate situation, and also a number of them which do with the whistleblowing acts in the governmental sphere. However, one of the important things to remember about those laws is that most of them relating to the government do not protect people who are working in agencies, information agencies like NSA or CIA or FBI because of the sensitivity of the materials they are handling. Okay. So this is a question of when we are thinking about the corporate law and the corporate whistleblowing, how does it relate to other types? Well, there are a couple of different ones while we're thinking about the corporate, which deals with the internal, which could be internal and external. We can think about the public one, like for example, Erin Brockovich and disclosing the manipulation of the company, however, through looking through the public, actually not the company interest, and they're dealing right now with the government. And when you're looking through your readings, there is a lot of things about Snowden. However, of course, this is not only the case. However, it's the most famous and right now most current case, as well as the case which deals a lot with leaking the information through the internet, which is the area we are discussing. So if you're thinking about the elements of whistleblowing and thinking about the government, there can be different things which, when we are thinking about the whistleblowing in the government, because the act of it as well as the recipient might be different. Also, if we're thinking in the corporate sphere, there is an internal whistleblowing here. Actually, it goes in the public. It's external. Additionally, the person who the actor who is doing the act not necessarily can be in one of the agency, but can affect the whole work of the others and work to the public. So as I was saying, we are talking about Snowden. However, there is a number of them. Mark Felt, associated with Watergate scandal, who went for I think 30 years under the pseudonym Deep Throat, and just recently, maybe 10 years ago, his name was revealed. Daniel Ellsberg, who leaked the Pentagon Papers on Vietnam War to the press. Linda Tripp, involved in Monica Lewinsky scandal. Corinne Rowley, who criticized the agency about their knowledge of 9/11 attacks and possibilities of how government agencies could work better to prevent them. And of course, connected also with WikiLeaks, Bradley, or by now Chelsea Manning. So there is a number of different situations and number of different actors and number of different affairs, and we can analyze each of them and think from the perspective of our moral and ethical guidebooks, and thinking about how those particular affairs would fit into our understanding of, is it ethical, or was that behavior ethical or not. I'm sorry. In the recent work of Candice Delmas, Ethics of Government Whistleblowing, she's posing a question of what kind of whistleblowing can be justified of government type and which one cannot. And she states that it would be justified if it exposes serious government wrongdoing that public should know about, and it is done after all lawful attempts failed, and the actor exercises caution in the choice of recipients and minimalizes the possible harm. However, most of those government whistleblowing things do not fall into this scheme, especially if many of them present breach of moral and personal duty, coming from the idea of what kind of oath are you taking if you are taking an office, and what kind of information you have to protect as opposed as to disclose. Also betrays loyalty to the state, and it goes to with some differences between what is your loyalty to the state and what is your loyalty to the company, and how they two differ from each other. It also is not ethical if provides harmful to national security or is an act of vigilantes. So when you are going through the readings for today's module, please think about those all components and think about one, it's legal, of course, and it will be difficult to judge, considering that it's not a law course and we don't know many laws associated with it. But we can make some judgments on to what degree specific actions have been ethical, and also how all the components of those acts were affecting the public and how they were affecting the act in itself. So those are just the things to think about when you are working on your homework. I'm looking forward to see your debates and the way how you deal with this particular topic. So see you online.